What's going on, Browns fans? Welcome into another edition of the Cleveland Browns Report. Happy to have you along here for a fun show today. It's not the usual type of episode we have, but I had a beef to pick, and I had a bone to pick, and it's with Mike Florio. So let's not wait any longer here. This is going to be the meat and potatoes of the show. Is Mike Florio a Browns hater? Does he have it out for the Cleveland Browns? For Bernie heads. I might get a little Red Ross here because this was unbelievable. It was childish, honestly. So Florio tweeted out this with a link to an article. And he said, Deshaun Watson has expressed interest in the Browns adding former Texans teammate DeAndre Hopkins. The Browns reportedly won't be pursuing the possibility. Okay, that's fine. I have nothing to disagree with there. But it's once you click onto the article, I read this, and this was just, you can decide. Here it is. It's possible Watson was simply saying what he needed to say publicly and that he hasn't privately pushed for Hopkins to be signed. But if Watson has expressed a preference to the team to make a run at Hopkins, and if the team has politely declined to do so, that would be the first tangible sign of friction between the Browns and the player to who they gave a 5-year, fully guaranteed contract amid 20-plus civil lawsuits and a looming suspension. I'm not going to even say, pardon my French, what the fuck, Florio? Are you serious right now? You are just inventing friction between Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns over a free agent signing. You are just trying to stir you brought your own pot. No one asked for it. There was no pot. And now you're stirring it like an evil witch with a cauldron. You are just trying to tear down this team and create fake narratives before the season even starts. Before Hopkins even signs somewhere as we film this on a Thursday afternoon during the live show. Are you kidding? Friction? Deshaun Watson at a charity golf event was asked about Hopkins and played it off and was like, sure, I'd love to have him. Yeah, why wouldn't he say that? They had a great thing going in Houston. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize Watson might want to develop and bring that type of chemistry to Cleveland, and he could hit the fast forward button by reuniting with his old pal DeAndre Hopkins. But no, I am not a believer, a subscriber to the thought that if Cleveland does not get DeAndre Hopkins, Watson's going to turn around with a big mad face and go, how dare you not sign my buddy? This is the first sign of friction. Come on, Florio. You're a bright dude. You're better than this. Florio, myself, and you, the viewer, have no idea, zilch, no idea how Watson will feel if the Browns do not get DeAndre Hopkins. How do I know that? Because we're not Deshaun Watson. How can we stand here and say Watson's going to be furious? No, we don't know that. Only Deshaun Watson knows that. So let's not invent feelings for Watson because we're bored in June. Granted, I myself included don't have a lot to talk about. So let's just play soapbox opera and let's create drama for the heck of it because we have nothing else and no other time on our hands here. And also, I'm sure Deshaun Watson will be okay if they don't sign DeAndre Hopkins. Why? Because he's got a pretty good wide receiver room. He's got Amari Cooper, a reigning 1,100-yard receiver with 9 touchdowns. Donovan Peoples-Jones, who quietly put up 839 yards. And Elijah Moore, who looks to have a breakout season now that he's got an actual quarterback under center. So I am sure Watson will look at the wide receiver room and go, oh well, I still have Pro Bowl talent next to me in Amari Cooper and rising stars in Donovan Peoples-Jones and Elijah Moore. In fact, I am such a big believer in this wide receiver room, I think they're going to have 2 1,000-yard receivers. What do you guys think? Is this room good enough to have 2,000-yard receivers? I could easily see Amari Cooper putting up 1,000 yards and Elijah Moore or Donovan Peoples-Jones putting up 1,000 yards as Kevin Stefanski plans to air this thing out. Give me a yes or no. More from Florio's hit piece on the Cleveland Browns here because he clearly had no plans that day. I don't know if his tea time got rained out. I don't know if his Netflix subscription got canceled because he was sharing passwords. I don't know. But let's look what else he said here. Watson, now entering year 2 of the deal because he wasn't required to miss all of last season, needs to begin to give the Browns a major return on their massive investment. If he thinks Hopkins would help accomplish that, and if the Browns aren't interested in giving it a whirl, that could indeed become a stickling point if/when things don't go as planned for the Browns in 2023. Let's just say the quiet part out loud, Florio. You're not doing the if/when because you think it's an if. Here's a fun little life fact. If anyone ever does an if/when, they most likely believe it's a when, not an if. So clearly, and hey, Florio's got his right to inject his own opinions, right? It's pro football talk, and he removed the comment section, so he doesn't want other people's opinions. But if you're not a believer in the Browns, okay. Like, I can't twist your arm. They didn't win a lot of football games last year. They lost more than they won. Deshaun Watson wasn't spectacular. He was not good. He was not great. But Florio was clearly just bored and a Browns hater. He was all over the Deshaun Watson story, if you will, last offseason. And he is putting in his own 2 cents. But, Florio, you can put your 2 cents in without creating fake ideas and rumors and stories of friction being brewed between Cleveland, the front office, and Deshaun Watson if they don't get DeAndre Hopkins. Would you do that for other quarterbacks if that team did not sign their wide receiver from a previous team? I doubt it. I really doubt you have said that there could be friction being brewed if the Indianapolis Colts with Matt Ryan did not sign Julio Jones. Would you say that was friction being brewed there? Probably not. So with that being said, if you are ready for the Browns season, because I love talking Cleveland Browns football, then make sure to subscribe, because when the watch parties get underway and people like Florio are proven wrong about this team, I will be here to remind them. And if you want to be included in that, hit that sub button. Now, moving on here a little bit, let's just talk about this team as a whole and try to put Florio's ugly face behind us right now. Watson, he's got great wide receivers. So whether they get Hopkins or not, I'm not concerned about this wide receiver room. Hopkins, as I said, would be a luxury, but this wide receiver room is honestly so good, it could be 2 NFL wide receiving units, right? Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Elijah Moore, Marquise Goodwin, Cedric Tillman, David Bell. Like, not all those guys have proven that they can play at a high level, but you're already kind of locked in all your wide receivers. There's no training camp. Like, the battle for the 7th wide receiver spot is going to be a street fight. And for the 7th wide receiver spot, who likely won't even see the field, if we're being honest. But Marquise Goodwin was labeled as a surprise standout this offseason by Jake Trotter over at ESPN Cleveland. So while we shift gears, let's talk about Marquise Goodwin and this wide receiver room. He signed a 1-year, $1.7 million contract, and Jake Trotter has been very optimistic about him so far, saying the Browns made a couple of noteworthy moves to upgrade their receiving core this offseason, trading for Elijah Moore and drafting Cedric Tillman in the 3rd round. Yet another under-the-radar addition, the 32-year-old Goodwin dominated Cleveland's minicamp, flashing the downfield wheels that could make him an intriguing weapon for quarterback Deshaun Watson. When asked about Goodwin's speed, Watson said it opens up other guys underneath, the run game, and also the intermediate and short game. Goodwin won't be a primary option, but he could be an impactful one. Marquise Goodwin is going to help win this team single-handedly 1 to 2 games. He's got that big play burst where he can just have 2 grabs for 110 yards and take over the game. He'll also have 6 to 7 games where he doesn't do a whole lot. Now, Watson pointed out and made a good point about just because Goodwin's not getting the football, when Goodwin steps on the field, the secondary has to respect him. They have to give him his space. Because if they want to press him up man-to-man, they're going to get burned. And so when you give him his space, that allows the ground game to know the safety's an extra yard back. so I get an extra yard to juke him out or to get some separation. So even if Goodwin is not making contributions with his hands, his presence alone is going to help this offense. That's why the 32-year-old is still in the NFL. When you look at his last 4 stats, no one would think someone who's 32 and coming off 387 yards would be getting $400,000 guaranteed. But what Goodwin does for the rest of the wide receivers in the ground game, like Watson pointed out, is so valuable that teams look at this and go, sure, we know we're not getting 17-game high production from Marquise Goodwin, but those big games we do get, they're worth it. I looked at Marquise Goodwin's 8 best games, in my opinion, of his NFL career. A lot of them came when he was with the San Francisco 49ers 5 or so years ago. But last year with the Seahawks, you can see he had a 5-grab, 95-yard game, 1 touchdown. He's got a handful of games where he went over 100 yards and not a whole lot of targets or receptions. Like in 2016 with the Bills, 2 grabs, 112 yards. You see what I'm saying? Like he's got that big play potential, kind of like Travis Benjamin a little bit here. Now, there are some highs, but there are some lows, right? And this is what I'm saying about Goodwin is going to have 6 to 7 games where you don't even hear his name because he has 27 career games with 0 yards, which is kind of crazy to think about, right? A 32-year-old has that many games with no yards, and he's still being paid to play in the NFL. That's just how dangerous his track star speed is, and he still has good hands on the other end, which we know that's not the case for all track stars. So who is your sleeper wide receiver? I'm going to go with Cedric Tillman, my own Tennessee Vol. I think Cedric Tillman is going to make some very limited but impactful contributions to this team, right? 6'3", 308 pounds. He could be a true red zone target that the Browns don't really have in their wide receiver room. Like Cooper's good anywhere on the field. That's what makes him so special. But Donovan Peoples-Jones, not so much. David Njoku, yes, but he's got a case of the drops every once in a while. Goodwin, no. Elijah Moore, no. Tillman could be a fade route guy in the second half of the season once he catches on to the NFL speed. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in, taking time out of your day to watch me rip Mike Florio apart. And now we get to my favorite part of the show. Pick a card time. We have the wonderful services of producer Nick Roloff today. He has been tasked to even up the scoreboard between myself with 1 point, King of Diamonds forever, and the producers with a big fat 0 on the board. Rolly, are you even going to get it close?
I'm really soul-searching right now.
Yeah.
I feel like I haven't been close at all to ever getting one right. I think I started out hot where I was really close a couple times, and then I just haven't even been in the same realm of the universe lately. And I think a lot has to change. I looked inward since our last video, and I think I'm going to go with the Queen of Clubs.
Okay.
And I feel confident about Queen of Clubs.
Queen of Clubs? I'm going to go with the 4 spades.
That's a bad number. It's a bad number.
I think it's been picked 3 times, actually.
It's a bad number.
Okay. One more cut for good measure.
Queen of Clubs.
You're going to hate this. 2 of hearts. Again? The 2s.
I'm telling you, every time I'm on, it's a 2.
Next episode, I'm doing a 2.
I think we have to. Yeah.
You pick a 2, I pick a 2.
Okay.
All right, that's it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will sign off. We'll catch up with everyone later. Subscribe, like the video if you enjoyed today's show, and I will see everyone on a future Browns Report.